Yes, I often imagine a world without religion. I think it would be quite nice, actually.
Uh, Depends, but we have to realize that we have a biological means, such as the so-called God gene. We can check it out. We can Google it. Is a metaphorical name, of course. And we have also psychological means, such as faith and religiosity, expressed not just through the belief in some kind of deities, um, or something similar, some kind of mystical stuff, but also expressed in terms of like ideologies and so on. Although every kind of ideologies, not necessarily the big ideologies like communism and so on. So we cannot really modify our genes, meaning the biological means, but we can certainly modify our cognitive behavior and processes of reasoning in regard of our psychosocial means. We can reason about fate, we can reason about the absurdity of a religious form of thinking which is based on no evidence at all. We can also reason about bombastic claims that means a perfect nothing. For example, before we talk about religion, I think we should talk about what religious thinking is. And religious thinking, in a very short way, is believing in something without analyzing something logically. That reminds me, like Eckhart Tolle, the famous New Age motivational writer, in his books, also The Power of Now and A New World and all this sort of stuff, and his speeches, he commits a lot of cognitive logical fallacies. Just to give an example about how religious thinking works and how credulity works, just to mention four of his sentences. Once he says that the past has no power over the present moment. So if the past has been like a bomb in a town, according to Toll, this has no power over the present moment. I think it has a lot of power. Another sentence was, the primary cause of unhappiness is never the situation, but the thoughts about the situation. I'm wondering about what about the children starving in Africa? The cause of their unhappiness is caused by plenty of other realistic things and not really about the way they think. Or another sentence, to love is to recognize yourself in another. Okay, then recognize yourself in Adolf Hitler. That's what it means to love according to Toll. And the last one, for example, the significance in hiding is the significance is hiding in the insignificant. Appreciate everything, including obviously an earthquake. So I think that religions could come to an end, but so far is little bit science fiction, because the 95% of the population believes in something, whether it be mystical or ideological. But I think it's very dutiful and responsible to give it a try. Metaphorically speaking, it's just like having like a bunch of seeds in front of us. There is a landscape of asphalt. Most probably nothing will grow, but what's the purpose of throwing the seeds in the garbage? At least we can give it a try, and that try comes into being with like proper education and self-education. Also, I'd like to say that what I'm talking about by proper education and self-education, I do not necessarily refer to schooling. I refer more oxymoronically to the issues and the arguments that are not so far a school, such as the study of gullibility, such as the study of like credulity, belief, studying the structure of a faith belief, measure religious books like the Bible, the Gita, the Quran should be studied at school. Obviously not to indoctrinate the children, but to make the children capable to analyze the ridiculousness, the dangerousness, the violence, the plenty of paradoxes and contradictions present in those books, including the Book of Mormon, for example, which is funny because Jesus is too hard to believe that Jesus was an Arabic person. Better to believe that Jesus was an American, or and God lives in a planet. I cannot remember the name now.
It's not just about the world without religion. What Diego is getting at is all the little ideologies, subtle things that we have that comes from religious thinking. So spirituality comes from religious thinking. A lot of abuse, absurdities, contradictions come from religious thinking, and this makes us fanatical and leads to credulity, gullibility, such as, for example, as long as we're patriotic, we will always have some sort of war. Our country is the best, you're not one of us. These ideas breed conflict, and this is also religious thinking. So a lot of non-religious people are still plagued with these contradictions, and they're not critically analyzing those as well.
We have also to talk about the fallacy that usually people engage when it comes to talk about a future with no religion. So usually people, even when they are not religious at all, they engage this fallacy by highlighting the tragedies and the absurdities that happened in the world, not out of religious ideas, such as the Stalinism or the Nazism, and Mao and Pol Pot, and many other cases like catastrophes and killing people, all this sort of stuff. Well, we have to comprehend and discharge this fallacy completely. First of all, Stalin was not an atheist. Stalin was a Christian. And Hitler was a Roman Catholic, and Mao had a lot of like Buddhism ideologies in his mind. But that aside, we should expand the concept of religious, psychosocial religious thinking, also to the concept of ideologies. If we compare, for example, a big Stalinistic parade in the main square with all the processions of like plenty of soldiers and following a specific protocol, and big pictures of the dictator, big symbols and colors and statues and all the rest of the stuff. And if we compare this ceremony to a very bombastic religious ceremony, whether it be Islamic or Christian or Hindu, we can see that regardless of the contents people believe in, the behavioral and the psychosocial behavioral structure is pretty much the same, and the outcomes are also pretty much the same. So if you insult my God, I'm going to kill you. If you insult my flag and my socialistic or Nazi or whatever idealistic icon, I'm going to kill you as well. So I don't see actually any difference between this and that. By the way, Hitler was also like apparently that was a lovely father, and he was a vegetarian person, so it was privately the conventional aspect of like a nice person. Yes, so I believe that like a process of proper reasoning, capable to bring into being high order thinking skills, and then applied in a completely new form of education, can erase not just the religious thinking, but also the ideological thinking.
Yeah.
And I don't think that is something that requires centuries. I think that it could be done in a matter of like a couple of generations, let's say 3. To be optimistic, the problem is that most of the people don't care about that. We rather care to protect other rhetorical values that have no values that have no value, such as freedom of religion,
Religious tolerance.
or religious tolerance, ignoring that when we proclaim and we protect religious freedom, we also automatically protect the freedom of indoctrination, which is very wrong. When we protect religious freedom, we also protect and we allow plenty of like ridiculous and dangerous practices, such as circumcision or infibulation or all this sort of stuff.
So it's when ideas or ideals think for us rather than our own mind. So it always needs to be questioned and our relationship with them, because even if we have a really lovely truth, the idea of that truth or the fear to lose that truth, or that truth is not enough, will lead to perpetual conflict internally and thus externally out into the world. And the truth also, an idea of a truth, also becomes like a belief system that takes over our mind and thinks for us rather than our own mind, and boxes us in, because if we don't, once we make that truth an authority, we don't question outside of it. So this is another form of religious thinking as well, our love of truth, our obsession with answers and solutions rather than really fundamentally understanding the problem, getting more associated with questions and to not stay in this sort of a box that we're constantly trying to put ourselves in because of our refusal to think and question.